Awesome. Well, welcome to the Tech Art Career Panel. Today I will be your host. My name is Finley. I'm just a mere game programmer, and I'm joined by three wonderful tech artists today. And we're just going to start head on. And I would like all of you to introduce yourself and just answer the first questions. Maybe you can just tell us what you're currently doing in your current job, maybe specifically as a tech artist. Mathew, do you want to join? Want to start?
Uh, yeah, of course. So hello, I'm Mathew. I work currently as senior technical artist at FISCHLABS, where my responsibilities currently are more on the optimization and shader side. So I would say that's my speciality, but we will come to that in a bit. Um, and yeah, that's my main focus right now. Of course, we have the luxury of having more tech artists than just one or two. So we share our resources and knowledge. So not we don't have like one who has to do everything. But yeah, that's for the first introduction. Everything I should know. So should we just go ahead?
Yeah,
with
just pass on.
Cassie?
I'm Cassie. Hello, everyone. I'm a freelance technical artist and animator. That can mean I'm an animator or also a technical animator. I work for several indie studios as a freelancer. I will soon, very soon, join as an actual employee Monocle, which is an indie studio based here in Cologne. And yeah, currently I'm working on a furry queer biopunk adventure game called Mars Vice as the 3D art lead and technical artist. So on the opposite side of the spectrum, I'm working with much smaller teams, so I don't have more technical artists to work with. I have many companies to work as their sole technical artists.
That sounds tiring.
It's not all at the same time, so it's fine.
I'm Joana, technical artist at Massive Miniteam. We actually revealed our new game on, I don't know, Oddsparks. And if you watch the trailer, the art is by other people, but like basically everything there I touched because materials, VFX, probably some other stuff, like I did a petting mechanic. So yeah, it's basically a lot of stuff.
All right, thank you
As
very
the
much.
sole technical artist.
So yes, we have the luxury of having very different backgrounds of tech artists here. So let's just go the other way around. Joanna, why don't you start? How did you get into tech art specifically? Was it something that...
Accident.
Okay.
Basically, I got told, hey, you need to specialize, and I was like, but what? I want to know how everything works. Like even in school, I was trying to understand if I want to do engineering or art, and did an aptitude test, and then they said you should do engineering or art. At uni, I was told you should become a tech artist, but at the time it wasn't an entry-level job, so I was like, I can't do that. But at the Global Game Jam, I met people from a studio. I just said, hey, I need an internship, and they asked what did I do. I said tech or art, and they said tech art. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thanks. Cassie, what about you?
The actual shift was when I decided to specialize as a technical artist. So my background is as a 3D generalist and animator, and after some years working at a studio, I realized that many of those things that I learned and I enjoyed making were not something that I wanted to make as a job. And I decided that the highest motivation that I had was to solve problems, to be in the between of having a more, let's say, pragmatic or a more technical solution to things than the artistic side, and that I would leave the aesthetical sensitivity to someone else's responsibility, and I wanted to help them achieve that in an easier way. And then it's like, oh yeah, that sounds like a technical artist. So when I decided to switch to freelancing, yeah, I also changed the focus to become that. In the beginning, I still took some gigs as a 3D artist, and I still work as an animator because no matter what happens, I still love it. But it was just I've tried many things, and I decided that my favorite professionally was this.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, so I started out with studying computer science for digital media and games. And after that, I also did my bachelor for intermedia design, also with like focus on games, where I also learned like doing 3D art, modeling. And even at that time, I thought myself of more a broader generalist because same as Joana was like, yeah, I like everything. I want to do everything. But at that time, it was when I looked for jobs that do everything. I often saw like people like complain about that. No, you have to be special in someone, jack of all trades, generalists. They're useless in our like companies. And then I was like, okay, and went ahead with programming. So my first job was an engineer job, but then it was like suddenly tech art, technical artist was a thing that came up, and suddenly everyone wanted one, which was nice because after the company I worked for had financial problems and had to kindly say please leave to some people. I had a chance to work at an indie studio as technical artist, and since then I'm fully just technical artist. I once had an endeavor to freelance, but that was way too stressful for me, so kudos to Cassie for holding on to that for now at least. But yeah, that was like my venture into becoming a technical artist.
Okay, sorry for the technical disturbances. So yeah, just for the audience, beforehand you basically gathered some questions from like Discords and friends and people. There will be around the half-time mark the opportunity for you also to ask questions. So if there's already some stuff that you have in your head, yeah, keep it there, and then we'll get to that. So one of the questions that we got is, what does a usual day of a tech artist look like? Does anyone of you want to take that question on? Yes?
There's no usual day. It's a trick question.
Well, you want to
I can
elaborate?
Yeah, like there's a lot of different things. There's the days where you can just try to do your own work and you get interrupted every so often because someone needs help with something that they don't like, more techie aspect, or like an art thing broke. But then there's the days where you have lots of like big meetings for kickoff for like a feature, because you need to get the programmers and the artists and everyone together and try to get all information, so you don't have to go back again and try to like tell them, hey, you weren't exact enough, we need to rework this. And on the days where I can't just work, I do some VFX, like some particle systems. If I can't delegate doing meshes or programming, I do meshes and programming. I don't do texturing. No. And yeah, UI, like at Ubisoft, that was like just UI the entire time, because the systems are built to be with node graphs, like lots of node graph work. So it's just, the moment you know node graphs, you can just jump into everything with node graphs. And yeah, like the UI was built with that, and Unreal is basically everything node graphs. So you just take it over from programmers who don't want to do that, and from artists who don't know how to do that, but yeah.
All right. Any other usual days or unusual days?
So yeah, it's always different. Of course, you have some kind of like sprint planning where you have your goals in some places, but it's still, as Joana said, like interrupted because a big part of tech art is actually communicating with people, like to problem solving for designers, artists, collaborate with programmers, like everything can be, because also something I've seen like during my studies is there's like a big gap somehow between like the different disciplines. They do not understand each other because there was no time, the room to learn from each others. And that's like perfect for me because that's the niche I fit in. So I can only thank education for that. But yeah, as I said, like there's always things coming up spontaneously that you also need to navigate and communicate with others. So it's hard to give like a definitive answer. But at the other hand, as I tease with like specialities, because technical art is a big, vast field with like different things. You don't know, don't need to know everything, but it's good to have like fundamental knowledge in most of them, so you can actually help out with different areas. So it could be that I'll be like one day just working on like shaders material, the other days I work just on making the tool for a level designer to have easier time to make the levels.
Okay.
See, I don't like tools.
What does that mean?
I don't make tools. I don't like it. I want to just make games.
All right.
I like making tools, and I'm probably the only one that likes writing documentation.
I don't like it, but
But that's something that I learned from the beginning. I have very short memory for things that are repetitive, especially. But I need if you go on holidays, as I just came back, so I'm trying to remember what is my usual day. I don't know. It's been, if I recall correctly, a lot of optimization. So I've opened all the scenes from a project that we're still working on, but still require optimization pass because they are older scenes. And this is something that happens in all game development. Like you are on your 6th environment, and then you go back to the first one, and it's like, we've developed some things in between that we didn't have time in the beginning, because otherwise then art would start development a year later. And even though if you went that way, you cannot plan for all the tools that you're going to need in the beginning. Like you will iterate on that, and then suddenly on the 6th environment it's like, okay, we have all of this, let's compare it with how good the first one is working. Let's just rework a little bit of here of things here. Let's see what I can delegate to artists, what I can consult with the programmers, and so on. So it's just more of a checking out what's the state of the earlier development to have a consistent, especially to have a consistent art style and consistent quality of gameplay, right? Of frame rates. Our valuable frame rates. But I like writing documentation, so I write it down because I will forget a month later. So what were the values that I needed for this before I even have the time to write a tool that will remember that for me? And yeah, I like to take notes on all of that kind of stuff.
Nice. All right. So we've already touched on stuff that we also have specific questions about. So imagine I want to get into the field and I hear tech art. It's like tech and it's art. So the question is basically like, what is, if I want to be a tech artist, what do I need to know? Like, do I need to know math? Do I need to know how to program? Do I need to be able to make art? Like, is there anyone who want to elaborate on that?
I can start, but
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
So, my opinion might be controversial. You don't need to know things, you need to know how to learn. Or at least have the curiosity to learn. Sure, like, you should know how programming works. Like, you need to know the logic, but as you join new teams, different tools, different languages, everything changes. You need the learning, not the specific knowledge. And if you need something specific, you Google.
Knowing how to ask the questions is important as well. Google will give you very different answers
Yes.
depending on what you think the error is. So that's
Yeah.
another question. I would like to elaborate on that. It's the logic that you need to at least learn. I'm not a good programmer. I'm not a programmer. I'm a technical artist, right? So the math question is like, I do not remember any single formula. Last time I studied that for reals was in high school because I studied media studies, so I was going for cinema. Imagine my path. And then I do remember how to what's the kind of group of math that I should take a look at, if it's vector math, if it's matrix, if it's something in a specific, that I will not remember how to do that, but I remember how to look for it in a specific. A little bit of logic as well.
That's basically my answer. You don't really need to. You just need to know the fundamentals, and then you need to know where to look, because you always have to reevaluate. Everything you think you know will be proven wrong by the application you're making, because there's so much things like intertwined that, like, in the one project you do something, and then the next you think you do the same thing, but it has a different result, and then you have to figure out what's going on, so you don't have to be scared. It will be, of course, depending on what you do, where your position in the company is at. It might be that you need to know more math, but it might be even like that you just have to know basic arithmetic, and that's fine for your whole career. The important thing is, do not be scared about maybe for a tool or like a cool material to dive deeper into math for this specific thing. Yeah, Joana also said, like, be curious to learn, and I think that's an important thing.
If I can add one more thing, I had almost all talks in my schedule here in devcom, because my experience is, even if I don't understand it or don't need it, at some point in the future, this is gonna react, and I'm finally gonna use it for Google search and know what I'm looking for. Like, every time someone asks me a question, like, "Oh, could you help me with this?" and I'm like, I don't know anything about it. But then I start talking about the few things I know, and they're like actually helpful, and then I can just continue from there.
Nice. All right. So let's switch a little bit to how tech art works in teams. You already said some people of you work with as a sole tech artist. Some work with other technical artists together. The team sizes probably vary also. So there was one question specifically about the indies or small teams. So often in smaller teams, team members have like lots of hats on. What's your experience, if you have any, what's your experience with that? How your position maybe like merges with the others? Or is there any kind of friction? Yeah, what are your hats?
Okay, I guess I'm the one with multi-hats.
Go for it.
Literally.
That is true. Yeah, a day as a tech artist is not as a day as an animator. That is a rule that I promise myself to follow, because it also falls on the freelancer experience. Working on the same day in more than one project or for more than one client is a no-go. The time that it consumes to put yourself in the mindset, remember where you left on, and so on, it takes a chunk of the day already. So you want to just be focused on one thing And so today's hat is as a technical artist. Today's hat is on optimization. Tomorrow I'm going to rig, but not everything in the same day, because of all of this buffer that you need to concentrate on, need to get in the flow of making very different things. That the kind of functions that I will fill in the same project are not going to be more than 2 usually, because that also adds on how many things I'm juggling with in the same environment. But they all fall on, like, I think this is true for everyone. It falls on a lot of communication with the rest of the departments for where you are at and what are your next steps. As I think Matthew mentioned already, the sprint planning and development is important to have it as a structure in order to know what your goals is. And sometimes I will have sprints in which I am only one of those hats, and the next one it will be another one, so I can just focus on a single plan, on a single thing. I will still be in communication with the other departments, but it's like, we will tackle this in the next sprint, because now I will fix rigs next one. Now I'm working on shaders, for example.
That's smart. I think I'm learning something today.
Which is fine, so actually also the same for me. So as I said, in our company we have the luxury to have dedicated tech art teams for each project. I know from other companies they may have also multiple tech artists, but they're like just the tech art team that has to provide for every project that's going on in the whole company, which can be done, but I think it is very useful to have a dedicated team, because we're really involved in things. We have maybe have the potential foresight of knowing, okay, of course we can do that, and but this problem might occur, so we should actually do it like that way, and then we can talk to game design. Hey, could we like change it? Is this okay for you? And then they can evaluate, instead of like just people coming up and say, hey, can you do this? And then we're like, okay, we're doing this, and like 2 weeks later they come back and like, okay, it doesn't work as we thought, or now we have this issue. And then you realize, yeah, I could have told you from the beginning, but I didn't know the whole context. So it's different from companies, also how this dynamic goes, or like how the structure is. Another thing, of course, if you have a bigger team of technical artists, you can play on the strengths of people. Like for me, I would say weakness would be like the technical animator things, like the animation of characters, the rigging, skinning part. I have the fundamental knowledge. I could like do it, but it will take more time, and I will not have fun with it, right? But like other things, I'm really good at, and like my focus point, I will have fun. I will dig deeper into it and create great systems, and have more potential knowledge that I can like use to talk, like communication again. Like I can probably correctly talk about procedural tools with other people, but if I'm going to rig something, I don't have the language to correctly talk with the animators and character artists. So that's like a whole different dynamic. But as I said, like in indie and freelance, I also was sole tech artist, and it was like rough with all the hats, because everyone wants to firefight at the same time. So it was always like to get into the structure that Cassie told. It was like the first few weeks were just managing how like the company and the people in the company interacts with me, that we can like have a good plan to work ahead. Other than that, I actually, for me myself, it's absolutely personal. I like to like switch around even through the day to have like 2 other tasks, because my brain is like, if I'm like stuck in one task, I will immediately go to the other and like free up like my memory, release everything and go into the other one, and then I'll stop and go back to the other one, and suddenly I have like, because I was disconnected for a moment, I'm like looking at it again, like actually reading like, okay, what was my setup there? And for me personally, it kind of works better to be more efficient. But of course, this is because we're very like diverse from how we work and from our backgrounds. I think it's always good to know like it doesn't have to be like this strict. It's figure out how you can work best.
I actually never saw it as a multi-hat thing. This is actually the first time I'm thinking about it like that, because it's, for me, it's been more of a Franken hat, I guess. You get into a team, and the team, and you have to, as you also mentioned, like figure out what your niche is. What's the thing that the team is missing, and what is that you can provide. And then it's just you piece together everything, and sometimes parts fall off, and because you haven't been doing it for a while, so they forget that you can program or that you can do specific things, and then you have to like remind them. But yeah, I also like variety. Yeah, gotta drop a task if it's just not working. For a while I had 2 projects at the same time. That was also kind of nice. The good thing is, one of the projects I had another technical artist who is really good at documentation, and I just loved her documentation. It was amazing.
Nice. All right. So in the next couple of questions, I want to touch into how does a person get into tech art. So say in the audience we have people who want to get into tech art.
I want to just add
yes.
like at Ubisoft, like I was at Rainbow Six Siege, which is, honestly, I have no idea how many people it is, but what happened there is, and in the division also, we made small teams out of big teams. So I was still, at times I had like, I didn't have a team of tech artists, but like everyone that was in a related area, like the UI team on a DLC or something, we had our sub-teams where there's the technical artist for this feature, but I could then ask the other technical artists for help and feedback, and like have another person, because it's really hard to figure out if you're being a weirdo with what you're doing.
Thank you so much for adding that. So say a person approaches you and asks you, how do I get into tech art? What kind of advice can you give them?
Don't.
Okay.
Or do it for the money. Yeah, this is a hard question, because even it's still like actually a new thing, and if you look at the market, like you just see like senior technical artists, lead technical artists. I mean, that's true for most roles, sadly, but it doesn't make sense to hire a junior if you have no one to guide them, right? So many studios are still struggling to fill up these like key roles, to have people to have like a level of knowledge. So it is rough, but many people don't start out as technical artists. They start out with being a programmer that is interested in graphics and maybe has a bit of 3D knowledge, and or like it solely 3D artist, animator, and just gathers like, oh, I want to be more efficient in like rigging, or can't I automate this, and they dig into like, how do I program a Python script to do that, and so it can be like a transitioning from like one thing over to the other. And I know a lot of technical artists that come also either way, like they were started out as programmers or had like an art background or even traditional art background, and just like went into the more digital realm to find more expressive way, and they just like got there. So that might be an angle point for you as well, where you think like, okay, my current strength is 3D modeling and texturing. I do have interest in this programming field, but I don't know where I should start. Maybe apply as a 3D artist, gather experience there, and also like let the company know, hey, I want to grow in this direction. And they probably won't say no, because they're like, oh cool, they want to program things as well, win for us. And yeah, and this could be like, then the next stop could be like, okay, you're transitioning to technical art. Yeah, that's my take at least.
Any more advice?
Yeah.
I feel like you want to say something, Cassie.
I have a feeling too. That transitioning from being an artist into being a technical artist requires you to accept that you have to learn how to program, not to be a good programmer, but how to program or how to think like a developer actually. What you want to achieve is something more technical, even as a 3D artist, more technical than expected. The thing is that from the final result, people just see the drawings or the 3D render, and that's everything they understand, the final picture. But actually you are working with vertices, you are working with faces, you are working with normals, you texture your meshes. You might want to learn other ways rather than the regular UV unwrap and your PBR, the usual PBR pipeline of making your asset, and learn how to, I don't know, use the vertices color for blending it with your texture, like it used to be. That's how it used to be for shading in PlayStation 2 era. I'm obsessed with that now. Put yourself constraints. Technical constraints are also marvelous for learning how to do other things. I'm looking into learning how to program Tamagotchis now. Yes.
Wow, cool.
So to the adventure. keep following me on whatever is called Twitter now, to see what comes in a year or so. But like, it is this curiosity beyond just making the pretty picture or the pretty picture that is actually a 3D object. It is understanding what your 3D object is made out of and extending it slowly, like just step by step. If you have that curiosity, just learn how to do one thing. And also saying in a company, I'm actually interested in learning how to do this stuff, they will very much like to push you towards that, because it is very useful, even if you stick with being an artist, to be very technical or very knowledgeable in the technical side. Yeah, that was what I wanted to say, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, that was enough time for me to think what I'm going to say. So, like, I didn't want to answer because I feel like I just slid into it. And, like, just connections got me the jobs, and being at a game jam and just saying, internship, please. But, yeah, at one point, there was a time where I didn't know how to program or didn't know how to do specific things. So, I think my advice is look for teachers, because technical artists are jacks of all trades. That means they're specialists. Look for the specialists. They teach you how to do it. Maybe the first programmer teacher or whatever won't unlock the logic in your mind for it, but the second one, the third one, at some point you'll find the person who can transmit the knowledge to you for whatever it is that you're trying to learn. Also learn from other tech artists to see how to bring the things together. But yeah, mainly there's other people who actually specialize in it and know better. So learn from them. Also pay them, because that's work.
All right, thank you very much. So we're a little bit over halfway. So that's the time where I want to activate the audience and be able to ask questions. I already see a hand and another. Great, it works. So I will be hearing the questions and I will reiterate them to you. I hope I hear them.
Oh, we have.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Will I hear myself?
Yes.
Eh.
But you can
I can just hold the.
you can just put them on to hear the question. and
Okay.
then
You will hear yourself.
Ooh, nice.
just test.
Very different reactions.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's like the radio, you know.
You can also adjust the volume if you like.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
All right. So, any questions? Let's start over here.
Hello. So I'm actually finished with my bachelor, and I fit into the role of technical artist almost perfectly. But a few years ago, I didn't know it. Now I have the challenge that I have like a vast things on my computer to show, but they are all just kind of mediocre or not really my work. So I mean by that is like, for example, I have a character, I rigged it, I animated, I put it in the game, but the character, that what's on the screenshot, on the render, it's not my character. How do I tell them that what I'm actually showing them is the animation in a picture? How does it work? Same in programming, like I could post my program, but the actual part of visualizing it is when I show my teachers, for example, I can talk with them. But when I have my portfolio, how do I communicate that, hey, I'm a technical artist with no prior knowledge, like I'm a bachelor? How do I?
Yes, I can answer that. I will take this off for now.
Yeah.
Because it's very irritating to hear yourself. So first thing you said, like you have work you've done with other people, and that's absolutely fine, because it's even better, because as I said, like communication is maybe, like, or not maybe, it's important. And if you say like, okay, the character is not yours, just write in the description, I have not done this character is done by this person. Always credit if you can. And then you can write down, okay, I did this, this, and this, and make a sort of a breakdown. And you can, of course, even like choose what you want to put into portfolio. You don't have to put in everything. Sometimes like 3 breakdowns, maybe of different things, are way more valuable to show that you have worked there and there and there a bit, and just focus on things where you say like that's the quality work, and I want to show that, or show that I know the rigging pipeline, but here I also programmed a tool, or like in Python as well, and then you can show it and like just say, hey, okay, I just did this part. But it's very valuable, so we can actually understand what you did, where you came from. Maybe you can even say like, okay, I had to work together with the character artist to do this, which also shows like, okay, you're talking to people. That's valuable, because I often ran into the problem where we get portfolios in when we look at applications that say, yeah, I worked in a team with this, but they don't say what they have done. So I can't actually judge it because I don't know what I'm here to judge for. And then at the end of the day, I have to say, yeah, I will pass. I will go to the person where can judge the portfolio actually. So yeah. Okay, I have to. Okay.
So I have a website, and I've shown it to my teachers, and they said it's a mess. Like you have everything on there, like modeling, rigging, game programming. Like choose one and show your best. But the problem is, again, how do I show as a technical artist that I can do everything, but at the same time impress people by something?
Okay. So I would just say, okay, have like sub pages, like have your 3 best pieces in there, and then like a sub page for other things. So if these 3 things are already eye catchers, I can go to the sub page and like, okay, there's this and this. Okay, it's a nice addition, but like the first 3 that were the things that like catch my eyes and where I was already hooked. yeah, that's it. Because of course, like the weakest link in your is the thing that might drag your whole portfolio down. But at the same time, hey, it's important for me. I think it's always cool if can, even a 3D artist has like one portfolio piece somewhere, even if it's a subpage, and says like, hey, I did a bit of programming. I think that's a plus because it always shows like, okay, they have extended knowledge on, and maybe not even just in the niche, because in production it's always cool to, again, for communication, that okay, they have a bit of understanding what's going on. So that would be my advice. But it's very general also because like every portfolio is unique in itself. So
I have two things.
yes.
God, it's awful. I've got two things to add. One is that, like, maybe you can focus on not going by discipline because you're not those disciplines. You're a tech artist, so you can maybe focus as feature. This is a feature, and then explain the feature, because this is not about, like, we don't do show reels. We don't, like, it does, like, we can, depending on what we do, but our thing is more about how do we do things, like how do we understand the logic, can we expand from there, and so on. But also, maybe you shouldn't listen to me because I took down my website last year or so because it was still from 2013, and I just, I have a nearly 10-year career in tech art, and I have not done a portfolio. I just can't.
Okay.
I can add to that. So because also like my most recent things are nothing like visual. It's just a list of things I did in a project, and that does suffice. Also, that you just like have, okay, my responsibilities were this and this and that, and this also helps like to navigate. Okay, they claim they have like worked like with a cool IK system they actually wrote themselves. So that's interesting. We will ask about that in the interview, and then in the interview you can elaborate on this thing maybe without like showing everything, because that also works.
All right. Let's grab
Yes.
some more questions. There's
Or
Oh.
Doctor.
Okay.
So what people often say to me is, to my portfolio, is specialize more, and it is quite hard as a tech artist because I tend to do a little bit of everything, and my strength is in learning new things and actually doing a lot together, and not a single piece. I'm not the best 3D artist, and I'm not the best programmer, but I can combine them. And it's sometimes quite hard for me to show, because my best work is often the combination of multiple factors, but it's not specialized. And how would you display that in our portfolio? For example, I can write IK tools, but at the same time I have some models to show, and they're not the best models, but I can still do them. How do I show that?
I have a one sentence answer. You're a technical artist. You're already specialized.
My answer is back to the feature. Can you hear me? The feature thing. What I meant is that you bring everything together, focus on the process, not on the mesh, not on the. This is about how it functions all together. It's not just about the IK thing. That's a rigor. That's a technical. I don't know. But you are how it all comes. You're the glue. So explain how the glue comes together, not how the mesh exists or something like that. I hope it helps. I don't know.
Or maybe other people.
Yeah, I think maybe a quick question to the panel. Are you up for a hangout afterwards? Because there's a bunch of questions.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Just so, because I think we're not going to get through all the questions, so I'd like to try to get more questions out of the way. Let's go here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the great interview. It was really interesting listening to all of you. I have a more broad question. I was listening to a lot of KI talks, artificial intelligence, I wanted to ask you, where do you see the tech artist job in the future? Because often with AI, they say the more general people will be in favor in the future because AI can specialize in anything. So you think there will be more tech artists, or what's your view on that?
There
And-
should be more tech artists anyway. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, everyone should learn parts of tech art because everyone should understand each other. As it comes about AI, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not looking into it as long as it's not properly regulated. So I don't. Maybe someone else has something.
First off, AI itself is not bad, right? The tech is like amazing. Just the thing that's not good is how people scrape the data or how they like make money from it. That's like the bigger issues there. But if you just look at the tech, amazing. It's just a tool. So you can actually, if you're saying like, yeah, I don't want to like go with the open data sets where I don't know how the licensing is, you can download Stable Diffusion, it's open source, and just make your own data set. You can source all your drawings or whatever from inside the company and have that as data set, and then not replace a concept artist, but have a tool for the concept artist to like do that what they are capable of, and not the AI be creative, right? So that's the thing. It's just a tool. Use it as a tool or not. That's up to you. And I know technical artists that also are getting actually into AI and maintaining AI tools or do it. One keyword what's always just is missing in the current conversation of AI is that most of the AI we're talking about is actually machine learning, because AI itself has been there since ever. It's like, oh, something knows how its pathfinding works and can go automated from A to B. That's already AI, but we're talking actually about machine learning and how to elaborate or like work on that. For example, Unreal has machine learning agent that is for deformation, for like to have like good deformation of muscles in your skin, and you can put in a data set and they just do like a week of how biceps can deform and learn from that, and then at the end of it you have like the perfect realistic biceps deformation, and that is also a tool that you could like integrate in your pipeline, and then maybe the animator is super happy that they don't have to hand blend shape muscles or anything. So there is a lot of potential there, and it's still quite new, but because of the controversy it's currently very hard to like find good resources or like understand what is potentially possible with that.
All right. I think we have 2 more minutes.
I want
Yes?
to add, because I mentioned that everyone should become a tech artist. What I mean is also, it's not just tech artists. You shouldn't just be curious. You should also be able to teach, because you need to communicate with all the other departments, and honestly, you should teach them so you don't have to do everything that they need, so you can delegate.
All right. I think we have time for one more quick question.
Oh, I ruined one.
There in the middle, he was very first one I saw
Here. Okay.
here in the red.
Mm-hmm.
The person with the red stripes.
Ah.
Hi. First, thanks for the talk. It's good to hear how other tech arts feel. My question is, the unicorn in the room, the strange one. My question is, how do you protect yourself from burnout? Because we are problem solvers, and I have often the feeling that we bite too hard into a problem, and we are frustrated if we can't solve it.
Anyone want to touch on that?
There was a great talk yesterday.
I missed that. Oh, it does sound horrible. Sorry. So, Do I still have this on? Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Sorry. I suddenly got very nervous from hearing myself. Y- yeah. Burnout you are not alone. Only we are, and we are not alone as technical artists. Burnout is a thing spread out throughout all departments. Unfortunately, burnout is a post stage of a lot of stress and taking too much for too long. So my counter work towards it is just to push myself to be less efficient, like
Yeah.
to allow myself to be lazy.
Breathing space.
Yeah. The change to work from home did horrible things to me until I realized how I learned how to balance my new space, because it was also my home at the same time. So I couldn't disconnect that much, but also throughout the day I would produce more because I didn't have the interactions with the rest of the team, which help on one hand to have the meetings shorter because it's chit chat, that's it. But on the other hand, also to decompress every 1 hour, 2 hours. There would be someone, if not me, cutting some fruit and going around and, like forcing the break. So of course, letting the others to be in the flow if they are programming something or working on a model, whatever. But yeah, force yourself to work less.
It's a
it's-
rough thing. I
it's
can
a rough
say
thing.
set boundaries. As I said, like just say
Yeah.
what you can do, because everyone sees, oh, you can do everything. Yes, but like
Yeah.
there's time. This weird concept. You can only do so much in the time you have. Oh, speaking of time, what a segue.
We're out of time. There's one more slide that you can take a photo of.
Oh, yeah.
The panel has put together a tech art wiki. I'll leave this on for the next 1 minute, and then you can just follow us around. Give a hand. Sorry, now we all have to photograph. Give you a second, but please give a hand to the panel. Thank you so much for
Thank
asking
you.
answering all the questions.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.